my name is AJ Torres. I'm a self-published fantasy author, and I'm back with a new video I hope that can help other authors looking to query. Please note that what I'm going to talk about in this video is based on my own experience. I may bring up what I witnessed on other social apps such as Twitter, X, Blue Sky, and Threads, but this is not meant to dissuade anyone from querying. But hopefully you can hear what I've gone through and either be wary, cautious, and or learn from the mistakes I've made. The querying can be a long and sometimes arduous journey. Not everyone can have that success story right off the bat, so it's best to set your expectations as best you can. Ready? Let's get to this. The drawing I have for you today is my take on the Taino mother goddess, Atabe. She birthed herself into existence and eventually birthed twin gods all on her own. She is the goddess of rain, rivers, fertility, even motherhood. And there are theories that she could be of the ocean as well. But by this point, because of loss of these mostly orally told tales, and it's usually speculation by this point. But I drew her after I started writing the Amulet of Kakata, which is very much inspired by, Taino mythology, culture, and is, I was hoping to do more gods in this pantheon, but then I had no idea what to do environment-wise for the other ones, so they haven't happened yet. Anyway, we're gonna move on to this video. So, first things first, before you start querying, if you're like me and are a fiction author, you need to make sure your manuscript is fully drafted and finished. Book agents have made it very clear if you're writing a fiction story, it needs to be done, or they won't consider your story, no matter how good. Finish the story first, then query. Now, here is where things will get tricky. Should you have your manuscript edited? To be honest, I really don't know. While querying, I have noticed the few book agents I've queried asking whether or not the manuscript I'm submitting has been edited or not. I think on the point of whether or not to edit your story might be a personal judgment. I got enough rejections telling me that after my story has been edited to try querying these specific book agents again. You will find mixed messages out there about whether or not you should or should not bother editing your manuscript. But because there are quite a lot of book agents that want a nearly perfect manuscript, my suggestion will be to have your story edited if you can financially get it done. Otherwise, very much your choice. Next up is making sure you have a query letter written as well. This should be a brief 1 to 2 page introduction of yourself and the story you're querying. Make sure you have a synopsis written as well, along with a 1 to 2 sentence pitch. No, these are non-negotiable. Make sure to have all 3 written and done because some book agents will ask for all 3. If you're not sure how to write any of these, good thing you're on the internet. Search up how these are done and get them done as soon as you're done with your manuscript, or close. By this point, you'll have a much better idea of what your story idea is, and maybe story comps? Here's the next thing you'll need. Story comps. Or what other stories already out best represent the aesthetic, vibes, and or plot points of your story. No, don't say your story is unique because book agents will not bother with your story if you don't have a comp. Because the whole point of these comps is to sell your manuscript to publishers so they have an idea of where to put your story. Where will they be able to stand it when in store shelves? Unfortunately, this is another career where you'll have to sell yourself and your ideas. It won't all be great. Just because an agent showed interest in the beginning, they can very much change their minds later. Please be wary of that. Okay, the next thing is whether or not you should take part in book pitch events and should you have a social media presence. Maybe and yes. Do you need to be the most popular person on social media? No. But it's clear some book agents are trying to gauge interest in either you and or your story. There's no definitive proof of this, but some authors have made complaints about book agents dropping them or rejecting them because they don't have much of a presence online. If anything, it could help with practicing marketing if you can at least figure out what and how to talk about your story. If you want examples, follow your favorite authors if they have a social media account, and pay attention to the ones that are actually active. Not every traditionally published author uses a social media account, and some only use it sparingly and for book announcements only. So, time to throw away that shy timidness nature of yours and get to talking. Authors aren't shut-ins like movies and shows like to make of us. Part of our querying is trying to market yourself and your story, garner interest from both readers, book agents, and publishers. Querying has very much changed since before 2010, and it's time to put yourself out there. At least get your story out there. The idea alone isn't enough to convince a book agent to represent you, no matter how much we prefer it would. Let's see, what else? Oh, patience, and a lot of patience. As I've stated in my first video back, I've been querying since 2023. Since then, I've been trying to query my Taino-inspired Portal fantasy that's Puerto Rican Percy Jackson meets Narnia. Yes, I've gotten interests. Unfortunately, over the 50-plus agents I've queried to, I've only gotten 3 to 5 full manuscript requests, eventually ending in rejections. And the reasons were way too varied, to the point that they were very much opinion-based. They either didn't like my writing style, didn't like my character's voice, my manuscript was too big. This reason alone irked me because the average length of a middle grade fantasy was 80k words. But apparently 77k is too much now. Thank you, TikTokers who complained about books being too big, skipping descriptions, prologues, and only reading dialogues. Yes, I'm blaming you for these demands of shorter books from publishers, and I should warn you, some book agents have already will reject middle grade fantasy manuscripts if they are over 65k words. Like, come on. That's way too small even for a fantasy story. Forcing a story to remain so small could very much be a detriment to world building, storytelling, and character development. And if you say, well, books should be smaller, some of these fantasy sizes are just way too much. Like, what book are you talking about? Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is at least 87k words. Artemis Fowl Book 1 is at least 83k words. The Marvelers is at least 108k words. Keeper of the Lost Cities is at least 101k words. Gregor the Overlander is at least 77k words. Cemetery Boys is at least 100k words. Legendborn is at least 140k words and only get bigger from there. Blazewrath Games is at least 90k words. Twilight is at least 120k words. The Hunger Games is at least 99k words. And Ember in the Ashes is at least 111k words. The Lord of the Rings The Fellowship of the Ring is at least 177k words, and is the biggest book in that trilogy. The Poppy War is at least 148k words. Ninth House is at least 120k words. A Darker Shade of Magic is at least 100k words. A Mistborn Book 1 is at least 136k words. I can keep going, but I think you guys get my point. Pointing at books like Priory of the Orange Tree or even A Game of Thrones and claiming all fantasy books are this big is a false statement. And just because you don't or even have the capacity, or the so-called attention span, to read something at least 80k words is not my problem. And I'm not going to make my story suffer just because a vocal, loud part of the reading community have caused the publishing industry to shift over or think about shorter books. Some book agents are clearly enforcing the change. Hell, Iden Thomas is going to try and make Book 2 and Cemetery Boys shorter because readers have come out wanting something shorter. Cemetery Boys is already pretty short. What are you guys talking about? Anyway, this video is already getting pretty long, and if I continue ranting about book sizes, we'll be here all day. I guess what I'm trying to say is, be mindful of your word count and how many books you plan to have in a series. If the story is going to be a series. If at all possible, try to query a standalone story, or if it'll be more than one book, end it in a way that'll give the story series potential. Yes, I've been rejected for stating series potential in a query letter, but that's because some of the book agents have admitted to never before representing stories with series potential, and have no idea how to sell it to a publisher. The reason stung, but there's not much I can do about that. If my story doesn't give them any vote of confidence, no matter how much they liked it, I have to move on to someone who might. Unfortunately, after 2025 rolled around, I was practically slapped in the face when I noticed last minute that some book agencies actually have policies put in place that once you've submitted to them a story, you can't submit that story again, but are more than happy to look at another story of yours. A no from one will be a no for all. And that threw me off because I didn't think it applied even for new agents at that same agency. I was very much thrown off because the only other story I had was another middle grade high fantasy, and although, yes, this one was shorter, it also wasn't anything any of the agents were looking for. So, stopping to think and looking into other querying authors, there will be times that you'll have no choice but to shelve the story you've been querying. Does it hurt after being with a story for so long, putting your heart and soul into it, only to see it get rejected over and over and over again? Yes, it does. Trust me, I'm still there, but it's best, for now, to put the story away for another time. Maybe it's just not the right time, maybe the story might need a few more tweakings, or whatever the reasons. For now, I want you to know that yes, it'll suck, and it'll hurt. But if you're set on traditionally publishing a story, try something else for now, and then come back to your first when you think it's time. I swear, if I hear any of you say, oh, well, why don't you self-publish it? Stop. Just stop. I'll make an entire video on self-publishing, but for those of you that are like, try self-publishing, or maybe you're just not good, just stop. Not only does it show that you don't get it, but that you also just don't get how the book industry works. Period. And with that, I should try to end this video here. Wow, this is long. Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope this video helped give you some idea into the querying process. It isn't an easy one, trust me, I still haven't gotten a yes, and I don't know if I should say yet or ever. But know that you got this. It'll take time, but hopefully in the end, it'll be worth that long wait. Happy writing and good luck querying authors. Adios!